Welcome back to another episode of Test Chamber, Game Informer show that takes a look at new releases coming out. We're playing Dead Space 3. I'm your host, Andrew Reiner. Tim Turi sitting right next to me.
Hey.
Big smile on his face. You loved the hell out of this.
This game's so good.
You gave it a 9.75.
This is the best game I've ever reviewed at Game Informer.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
This is my New Game Plus. You can go back to any chapter and zip straight to optional missions or co-op missions. You unlock a bunch of new stuff and weapon upgrades for the bench. I could go in here and I got a bunch of circuits already, and my plasma cutter just completely pimped out. And now that I have New Game Plus, I can get... Why not? I can get +3.
Looks like they made those icons in Call of Duty's emblem editor.
Yeah, a little bit. But this replaces the node system.
Okay.
I don't miss it at all. I just replayed Dead Space 1. The nodes were fun, but the upgrade circuits give a lot more just sort of open-endedness for how you customize your weapon. But so where we're at in the game now, most of what you've probably seen in preview footage was of Tau Volantis, the Hoth-like icy planet. Good chunk of the game takes place there, but there's actually a couple acts beforehand.
Get out of town.
There is, yeah.
What?
The game actually starts off with like Isaac in his apartment on a colony. Yeah.
You're making stuff up.
I am not.
It sounds like Heavy Rain in space.
It's not Heavy Rain in space. But what happens is certain events occur, and we are stuck in orbit of Tau Volantis. We have to figure our way down onto the planet. And you do these various sort of space exploration bits.
Space jump?
No space jump. No Red Bull sponsored space jump at all. But you actually end up... Oh, it's this part. Okay.
Whoa.
Yeah, I remember this part. Okay. And so I'm just kind of working my way through the ship right now and powering things up. If this was co-op, one person would be pressing that down and the other would be kind of powering these things up here.
Well, let me ask you about that, Tim. You played it both ways. If you pick this game up for the first time, should you play it single player first or just jump right in with a friend? Does it matter?
Personally, if you like the creepiness of Dead Space, I would start off with single player and then go through co-op. And if you can talk your friend into it, be Carver, who is Isaac's new partner, because Carver has not been exposed to the marker before, and there's marker stuff going on.
So he's a little insane.
Yeah, he's going to be dealing with some of the hallucinations and stuff that Isaac was dealing with in the first and second game. But since the events of Dead Space 2, the marker doesn't have quite as firm of a hold on Isaac. So Carver will like, that lady, you see that lady? And Isaac's like, what are you talking about? And then Carver will try to follow him. And so when you're playing and talking to your buddy online, you'll actually be seeing things that the other player doesn't. And it kind of creates this sort of Kane and Lynch asymmetrical co-op experience. And like if you follow that lady, it'll probably lead to a co-op side mission. They have these co-op only side missions.
So let me ask you this. How do they handle the story? Is Carver with you right now? Is he like he's in your backpack or something? You just can't see him? Or is he just not in these story sequences at all until you play co-op?
No, he is actually around. He actually makes choices and impacts the story.
He shot you right there?
That was him, yeah. But, let's say there's like the central hub area where the other characters are hanging out. He'll just hang out. He'll hang behind. He'll just stay behind in single player.
Basically, you go do all the tough stuff. I'll just be here eating some Oreos.
Hold a gun and look tough. So that's kind of what he'll be doing. And it really blends seamlessly between single player and co-op. And it's drop in, drop out. So if your buddy can't continue playing with you in co-op, Carver will just disappear.
Or Isaac disappears?
Nope. You will switch to Isaac.
Ah, okay.
Because the game is very much Isaac's story still.
Right.
The co-op side missions are all about Carver. That's where you learn more about him. He's got some interesting backstory with his family. But I'm actually really, Dead Space, the franchise started off with not a lot of characters. I mean, Isaac was just a cipher. He was voiceless in the first game. They've developed him into an interesting character, and Carver ended up being a surprise for me. So anyway, there's more exploration stuff here. Would it be all right if we skipped ahead to another part of the game that I'm really excited to show off?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, let's jump ahead.
Cool.
All right, we're back with Tim hanging out in space.
We are in orbit above...
Looking like a champ.
Above Tau Volantis down there. Like I said, something bad happened here. And essentially we have to start looking for some stuff. And you end up doing this sort of... Like, there was more zero-G stuff in Dead Space 2, but they really amped it up. And this whole act kind of highlights just being an astronaut and going and checking stuff out. And I can't think of any other game that's ever made me feel more like I am, this critical spaceman doing all this cool stuff. You'll be floating around, and hopefully I can find some air. Air's not as much of a concern as it was in past Dead Spaces, but...
Good. I hated that.
Yeah. Also, you may notice that my gun is awesome. Apparently you can use your flamethrower in space. Is that how that works?
No.
I don't think so. So anyway, my gun's really strong, like I mentioned in the first part.
You've really leveled the thing up in your previous playthroughs.
Yeah, this is a new game plus, so I'm hopping around. And it's very, very strong.
So they give you any idea of what you're supposed to be doing out here, or are you just kind of cruising around?
Yeah, I've kind of zipped ahead to a side mission, and I don't really want to do the side mission, so I'm just kind of checking things out and showing you just how open this area is.
Now, that's something that you touched on a little bit, that there's kind of an open chapter select screen. Mm-hmm. So if you didn't do this side mission before and you went to your chapter select screen, would it be available to you, or do you have to stumble upon it?
So let's say that you just missed your... the side mission. You just didn't find it. Mm-hmm. You beat this chapter, and then you look back in your totals and you're like, oh, I didn't get it. You could go back to chapter select and just go select your side mission, and let's say that you needed to find a card key to go to your side mission. It would just automatically set you in front of your side mission with everything required to do it, and you could just start off with it. Same goes for co-op missions. But like we were talking about it being sort of open-ended, or there's this little tram system which connects the ruins of these destroyed ships, and you can kind of take this between them and explore. I'll show you how this works. Get a little sip of air.
Man, space is messed up.
It sucks.
It's like Jeff Cork's desk. Look at all the stuff everywhere.
It
is just trash.
It is. There's just old, defunct, broken action figures.
Coffee cups from 4 years ago.
Yep. So here's the tram system. And anyone that's played Dead Space is familiar with trams. But so I can go back to the Terra Nova, and the main thing basically at this point is you're trying to sort of scrape together all these pieces from downed ships and repair one so you can get down onto the planet. But this ended up being one of my favorite parts of the game, because you can take as much time as you want exploring every nook and cranny, just floating around in zero-G. Looking for loot, just chests filled with new weapon parts and upgrade circuits, which is a really central part of the game, is the crafting system. And the weapon crafting in this game is fantastic. You are rewarded for as much time as you put into your weapon. If you spend the time trying to make it good and disassemble it and rebuild it from the ground up, you're going to end up with a better weapon, I played half the game with a line cutter, which was kind of... I thought it was doing okay, and then I just took it all apart and rebuilt a plasma cutter that ended up just one-shotting guys. But, I mean, if you just look at these, like, this game looks fantastic.
Yeah, it's cool looking. Reminds me of Serenity. I don't know if you saw that movie, Joss Whedon.
I didn't see Serenity, but I've watched, like, Sunshine, I've watched Moon, and, like, Space Odyssey, obviously. There's definitely an Event Horizon. There's hints of those movies in here. And it's not even just that it's the setting. It's like it feels, the things you do and how you play the game, it feels like those characters in the dire situations they had to deal with.
And how is the suspense and horror? Does it kind of hold true to the series' past? Of having moments where you're kind of jumping and seeing things that are just really disturbing, like the babies from Dead Space 2?
Right. Well, like I said, Carver's the one that's dealing with more of the hallucinations. Well, here's some goodies. And it's definitely more action and suspenseful than previous games. But I'd say that the side missions end up feeling way more close quarters and, darkened corridors than the main game. So if you really like that Dead Space 1, Dead Space 2 feel, the side missions are definitely going to provide that for you. But the main game, it feels different. It feels more like this sort of like what Resident Evil 4 was to the series without going that far in that direction, like at all. It's consistent with the series, but there's more action. Like, look, you can roll, for example. I don't think I can roll out in space here, but he has a...
You just roll off and float endlessly toward the sun.
Yeah, it wouldn't work
Game
as
over.
well for a dodge. But, it's still spooky. If you play with the lights off at home by yourself, you're going to get creeped out, and there's some good moments in it, but it's definitely more action-packed and in a good way. But like I said, that being said, this sort of zero-G floating around, just exploring and being a spaceman is completely different than when you get to the surface of Tal Volantis. And it turns from being, Space Odyssey to being, The Thing. Like the John Carpenter's The Thing, where it's just this frozen wasteland where you can't stay outside for too long because you might freeze to death, and then these dudes popping out of the planet and just attacking you.
And for a look at that, we linked in our previous test chamber, where we do show a lot of the planet stuff. So here we're showing off some of the zero-G stuff and different things you can do in the game outside of that kind of planet warfare.
Yeah. But, basically this part ends up with, there's mines floating around. You're just kind of exploring and looking for pieces of ships in order to get onto Tal Volantis.
It's like
there.
Pikmin.
Kind of like Pikmin or Toe Jam and Earl. But, there's something not incredibly scary about being alone in space, but there's something unnerving about it. And no game has nailed that as well as Dead Space 3. And it sort of made me realize that I have this itch that I want scratched, which is to be a spaceman, to be an astronaut, and games just don't provide that experience as much.
I don't think Game Informer does either, Tim. I'm sorry.
You don't think so?
Nope, we don't have the astronaut program anymore.
I don't really understand why we got rid of that at all, but if that's the direction we're moving in, then fine. So there's also 3 different New Game Plus modes. You can do like a hardcore mode where you can only die once. You can't really save it all. You can do another one where it's classic mode and you can only use the original weapons from the first game. And
are they the actual weapons from the first game, or are they like Dead Space 3's versions of those? Okay,
it's like the schematics for them. They play and look and act the same, but I gotta say that the transition from this section of the game to Tal Volantis is one of the most memorable moments, especially the co-op version of it. Getting onto the surface of the planet is just insane. This game, from beginning to end, I am comfortable saying is definitely one of the best experiences I've had of this generation.
Wow. And what do you think of the series overall, though, like Dead Space 1 and 2?
They're fantastic games.
Just to give people context here.
The first game started off, it established some great things for the series, like, there's no HUD. It's all on Isaac. The atmosphere, the music, the flow of the game, and then just the necromorph enemy. The fact that you have to, dismember this thing instead of just going for headshots and stuff. The weaponry, the plasma cutter, like everything felt great about that game. But in Dead Space 2 definitely evolved it in the right direction. I'm happy with where it's ended up, and I hope to see more like this. Definitely.
And one last question for you, Tim. Obviously, people kind of latched onto Isaac as a character, especially after the second game when he was kind of going insane. How is the story in this one? This
is definitely, I think, the story is confusing, but
the marker stuff's always been confusing for me.
It is, and I've read some of the books and stuff, and I've been getting a better sense of it, but it is still confusing. But it's expanded the story in a way where you get a better idea of what this necromorph plague is all about, but there's still questions. And I appreciate that about it. And they definitely did develop Isaac as a story, and I really like him. He went from being just this sort of literally voiceless character to something very interesting, and someone I want to know more about. Absolutely. But yeah, he's a good character.
Well, cool. I mean, your 975 is ridiculously high score, and I was already excited for this game, and now after seeing that, I really, really want to get my hands on it. And it sucks that whoever out there decided to put dice on the same day as this game comes out. I guess I'll just go listen to J.J. Abrams and Gabe Newell talk, but the whole time I'll be thinking of Dead Space.
And also, there was a lot of uproar about the microtransactions in this game. It was not in my face at all. If you choose to ignore it, you'll have plenty of resources in the game to do everything you want with, and it's a subtle thing that's in the background, and I don't think that it should influence your decision to play this game or not. If you did decide to pass up this game because of microtransactions, you would be missing out on something great.
All right, Tim. Well, thanks for having us float through space here.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jason A. Stryker, for putting this video together. And thank you all again for your continued support and watching these videos. We'll see you next time.